I'm Sophia, and this is the ultimate podcast for celebrating all things wonderful about our beautiful island. Welcome to Destination Cyprus. Hi everyone, welcome back to Destination Cyprus, a podcast that celebrates all things wonderful about our beautiful island. Now, as you know, CBRE is a development company, and we also have a contracting division. And our guest today is someone we all consider a little bit of a real estate expert for a variety of reasons. But according to his LinkedIn, he's an entrepreneur, a father, a husband, and a slave. Pavlos Loizou, welcome.
Hello.
So, which part of this do you want to focus on first?
I think slavery would be a good part. It's I think anyone who is married or who is Cypriot, which means that they have parents who deal in their everyday lives, qualifies under this category.
I'm quite lucky, actually. I got away with 50% of the Cypriot parenting.
Yeah. You're lucky. Indeed.
Yeah, that's
true.
Pavlo, you have managed to establish yourself over the years as something of a guru in the sector. And obviously, a lot of the things that you're doing at the moment have come to combine all of your skills and your academia. I'm fascinated by how many years you spent in education, because it definitely proves either patience, commitment, or a great desire to stay away from Cyprus. But you went from Nicosia to the University of Reading, then you went to Cambridge, the ACCA, Middlesex, NYU, Harvard Business School, Wharton. Tell me a little bit about that journey and how you ended up back here.
Sure. So, first of all, what is it that we do? The word guru sounds a bit off, but effectively what I've always been intrigued by is transparency and clarity. And how do we use numbers or other items to actually get to find the essence of why something is happening, is it happening, and also at looking at things with a more medium to longer term outlook. Right, that's what fascinates me, and actually that's one of my biggest flaws. I live in tomorrow and often forget about today. So that's what we do, right? So what we do as a company or as a person is, collect numbers, crunch them, and then try and figure out or project what we expect to happen. In terms of the academic journey, what I realized was, and this comes a bit from being an only child and, the need to constantly prove yourself, is that very quickly, and I think now with the advent of AI, it has become more prevalent, is that you become obsolete a lot faster than you did before, right? So age or rather experience that comes in theory through age isn't a barrier anymore. It's not your moat that's going to protect you. So when the time came when I started working back in 2004, my line manager then in London turned around and said to me, okay, you are sort of, just came out of university, all the new stuff that has come out, but how are you going to stay relevant going forward? So I decided then that every 5 years, I'm going to go back to university. And that was it. So I don't actually go to university because I have kids and everything else. But every 5 years I do a degree to keep me fresh and to keep me
And which, because this sounds like quite an inspirational leader. Was this CBRE?
CBRE, yeah. So I was lucky enough. It was funny because I did a job interview, their job interview. So I did round one, fine with HR, and then round two was a whole day assessment day. And we were 6 of us that were being assessed. You walked in at 9 o'clock and you were walking out at 5, 6 in the afternoon. I mean, it was a whole day of tests and stuff like that. And the last one was an interview by one of the partners. It was a partnership at the time. It was called CB Helia Parker. It was before a merger that took place. Anyway, this is ancient history. Nobody knows about this stuff anymore. Anyway, so first person walks in. comes out, we're all, the other five were all sitting there, sort of, freaking out and like, okay, what did he ask? What was about the rugby game last night? I'm like, oh God. Second person walks out. What did he ask? Rugby game. I'm like, oh. Third, rugby.
Not your forte, rugby then.
No, I'm like, if it's Souvlagia, I can deal with it. Football, maybe, sandwiches, the important stuff in life. So, I walk in, the guy starts talking about the football game, the rugby. And I turned and said to him, look, if you want to hire someone to watch the rugby with, you should hire one of the other guys sitting outside. If you want to hire someone who, whilst you are watching the rugby game with the others, crunching the numbers and building the model in Excel, you should hire me. Right? And that's how I got my first job. I've always been the guy sitting at the back, crunching the numbers.
Sounds like a good interview technique, though, doesn't it? He obviously knew what he was. Do you think he knew what he was doing?
I think it was more a case of I knew that, I know my weaknesses, and God knows there are plenty of them, but rugby and schmoozing ain't one of them. Yeah. So I'm more of a troublemaker than anything else.
Well, let's get back to that then.
Sure.
So from an opportunity like CBRE and from all this education and growth and development, what made you come back home?
Actually, is the racism in the UK. So it was as simple as that because, I went to Reading, which Reading is considered to be, or was considered to be, one of the very good universities to go and study real estate. Went to Cambridge, obviously very elitist. Went to CBRE, largest company, US company, listed on the US Stock Exchange. So, all the stuff was there. And it was actually a very snobby event organized by the Cambridge Land Society in the West End. So, as snobby as you can get. And if I remember correctly, it was the chief economist of HSBC who was giving a presentation, right? So he finished, lovely, whatever, and then everybody was networking, drinking, having some drinks, whatever, in this private club. And then I sort of looked around like this, and it was, you get the classic pockets of people talking to one another, and I realized that we were a pocket of foreigners.
Wow.
And then it was, and I'm like, so I sort of sat back and thought, okay, is this how it's going to be? And this was, I was already living in the UK for 7.5 years. And then, if you remember, at the time was also when Sven-Goran Eriksson, the Swedish...
Nancy's husband. Wasn't it Nancy Dalalio?
No, yes, correct. Right, so he became coach of the national team, right? With when Beckham was, living the dream with the hairstyle and so, and he was, why are we bringing this Swedish guy to do this? So I sort of looked back and said, okay, hold on a minute. What's happening here? There's going to be a ceiling here, probably, right? So that was sort of number one. And then the number two was actually three reasons. So number one, there's going to be a ceiling, imposed by society. Number two was, okay, what are these guys working for? And they're like, okay, they're working to buy a flat in maybe zone 2 or zone 3, St. James's Park or whatever, something lovely. Or somehow, a commuter belt, so maybe an hour, so Seven Oaks, whatever it is, somewhere outside. So that they spend half of their lives commuting in and out of London, and then to go on holidays to Cyprus. So I'm like, okay, why do I have to go through that to be home? And then the third was, it actually got boring. It's quite easy to make money in London once you hit the vein, right, or a vein, right? Because there are various places to. So, and after a certain point, making money becomes a game. And it's a case of, okay, if the amount of money begins not to matter, what do you do, right? How do you stop being bored, right? And, in my case, I thought, okay, instead of building financial models for AXA, the French insurer, I'm going to go and sell land in Bucharest in 2007 when things were going nuts at the time. And that's what I did. And then similarly, when everything imploded, when we had the subprime crisis in the US, which then went to the UK, then was a wave that fell across. I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And so I became a valuer in Cyprus, working in Limassol. Quite boring. Quite boring because, valuers were and are people who feel the need to tell their clients what the client wants to hear. So again, going back to that's not me. So on the side, I started a sandwich shop. Because
what was it called? Remind me.
It was Refresh.
Refresh. I knew the word fresh was in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, copying is what I do best. So there's a very nice shop called Get Fresh in Nicosia. And then
refresh.
Step ahead. And also if you remember on the browser, right, you hit refresh.
Yes,
branding. Extraordinaire, next level. So I did that, and that was it. So and then of course we had the banking crisis, 2013. And then in the banking crisis, I got a message. So I went freelance 3 months before the banking crisis. I decided I'm going to start my own thing, doing advisory work. And then I got a message through Facebook saying, "Are you Pavlos, who used to work for AXA back in 2006, 2007?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me." And I said, I'm, Steven. Hi, Steven. Who are you? It's like we were on the same floor, those massive floors in the whole office, and you're like, AXA at the time had 260,000 employees,
what?
16th largest company employer in the world. I didn't know Steven, right?
Shame on you.
Shame on me. So Steven was looking for a QS, quantity surveyor in Cyprus. I gave him some numbers. And then a month later, he reached out and said, "I'm actually coming to Cyprus. Fancy a drink." So as every newly divorced, bankrupt, person living in a bankrupt country does.
Desperate for a friend.
It's like, no, more for, cheap thrills. I went out with Steven. We got plastered. Here in Limassol at Fat Fish, so we were actually the only table that. Anyway, we had a great time.
You weren't drinking.
We had a great time. Anyway, and long story short, they turned around and said, "Look, we have a project in Athens doing distressed real estate advisory work, and we actually don't have anybody who speaks Greek. How about you translate for us?" So I went to Greece. I became a translator. Whatever.
Breadth of skills.
Breadth of skills. Yeah, it's like we do everything as long as it pays. So I did that, and then on the back of that, I met the boss and everybody else. So they were a startup. There were 14 of them out of London doing distressed real estate advisory work. We were 2 of us in Nicosia in my flat. And long story short, they said, "Okay, you guys." To show that we're a lot of us, you guys become our Greece and Cyprus offices. That was 2013, right? So fast forward to 2019, Cyprus became 90 staff. Greece was another 20-25. We were turning over about 9 million between the 2 jurisdictions, doing advisory work on distressed. We set up the distressed unit of Hellenic Bank, which was bought out by APS, the Czech NPL servicer. We then set up REMU for Bank of Cyprus. Was there, seconded there for 3 years. Did mainly advisory works in Greece on underwriting portfolios of NPLs and that type of stuff. And then in 2019, I got an offer to jump ship. To leave that company, and I went across to Apollo who bought what they bought the portfolio that is now managed by Gordian, so the NPL servicer here. So I went as head of real estate, set that up, hired 28 staff, policy procedures, put the Go before Gordian, so it became Go Gordian.
Refresh.
Exactly. No, because I thought the trainer said to me, "We've decided what to call the company." Because after I started, right? And I'm like, okay, they said Gordian. I'm like,
It's a bit aggressive.
well, it's like I'm trying to sell stuff, right? And you're like, the Gordian knot. Because I said why, and they said, well, we are solving, or we are untying, or in the case of Alexander the Great, cutting, the Gordian knot. And I'm like, amazing at your level in New York, but in Lemona of Paphos, me saying Gordian, it meaningless, right? I mean, it sounds so wrong. So I was trying to figure out, okay, I need to do something. I need to, jazz this up somehow, or sex it up. So I was watching something on YouTube or a movie or whatever, and it was U.S. Baseball games, and they have those fingers, those big, they right? They were all going, go, go, go. I'm like, great. We take the go and stick it.
There's a future for you in marketing.
I'm being wasted. So yeah,
true.
that became Gordian. So I did that for a year and a half. So I just set it up, ran it a bit. We did the first 100-something million in sales. And then I thought, okay, it's enough. I think the COVID and everything, whatever. At that point, I realized that I hadn't seen. I missed the baby steps of both my sons. Yeah. Not good. So, yeah, and many other things. So at that point, I said, okay, I need to do something different that gets me out of that rat race. And I entered the tech startup rat race, which is let's say it's not less time demanding as the other thing, but it's it's cool.
For a start, I love, every great story starts in an apartment or a garage or a basement. And I think we should probably address, I don't want to call it, well, no, I should really, it's the elephant in the room, because you could have gone down various paths. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of our listeners or viewers will know about the Antonis Loizou legacy, and that there's real estate in your blood. That kind of gravitas, was there ever any pressure just to do the family thing, or were you always driven to kind of start up and do your own little thing? Because you've done a lot of very proactive, pioneering stuff that you could have not done if you wanted to. You could have taken the easier route.
The Antonis Loizou name, or his, is like the elephant that you mentioned in the room, sitting on me. That would be the way to describe it. So, having, Antonis at the time when he was the second person to be trained valuer, right? Because valuation as a something that you study is a very British thing, right? I mean, in Eastern Europe, only now, and when I say now, in the last 5 to 10 years, are people actually studying to be valuers. Typically, valuers are either engineers or, in certain cases, architects. So the whole profession, let's say, started in the late 70s, early 80s. So Antonis caught that wave. It was the time when also Cyprus became started becoming a holiday destination. Late 80s, especially the first wave of the Brits who came over, then obviously the Russians and everybody else. But he became one of the first persons to get professionally involved in the sector as a valuer, agent, obviously, and project manager and everything else. On my side, what I saw was it was lovely. I mean, I spent a lot of my time. The time that I did spend with my dad, which wasn't that much, was typically out there looking at buildings, talking to people, him talking, me listening, obviously. But so I was obviously real estate was part of what I did. I think the question that came, and actually I never thought that I had a choice. In many ways, I didn't. So even the stuff that I did in high school, where you're gonna do 1, 2, 3, and I would like, I mean, even A levels. I wanted to do history A level, right?
Why?
Why? I wanted to learn more. I like the idea of learning more. So yeah. So he said no. So I did what I always do, which is, okay, I'm gonna do what you say because I didn't have a choice. And then I did, history as an extra, A level outside of school. So that's how I solved my problems. I did what he said, and then I sort of did my thing, working around his schedule. I think the point was when I came back to Cyprus after I was away for 7.5 years in the UK and then 2.5 years in Romania. So it was 10 years, and then I came back with I realized at that point that it was a realization. He wanted me to replace him, but it's replacing, not handover.
Okay.
Right, and I think that was the thing. It's like, no, I mean, I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to sort of take on what you have built, which has its issues and whatever. But I'm not a replacement. I'm going to be my own person. Even now, funny enough, just to change a bit the story, is a lady called me right before we walked in here, and she said, I have this old house that I'm selling in the center of Nicosia. What do you think? Blah blah blah. I tried to explain I'm not a valuer, I'm not an agent. I'm a data analytics guy. And she said, and I said to her, look, your house is in a high density area, right? You have a building constructed in the late 60s, early 70s. Yes, you have refurbished it from what she was saying to me on the phone. But anybody who buys it would give zero value to the building. They will just buy it, knock it down, and build new apartments. She was like, not having a go, but like, no, the building is lovely, and why do people appreciate it? I'm like, you are selling it. Why do you care? And she said, what do you mean? I'm like, you are selling it. They're like, and this is one of the flaws that we have in Cyprus. I mean, not only Cyprus, but in other places. Like, and I wrote an article about it a while back. It says, how do parents control their kids from the grave? And you see that in Cyprus, where the parents will turn around and say to the kids, I bought this piece of land for you to build your house. And the kid is 9 years old. Or I'm going to give you 100 grand to buy your first house, but you can only get the money to buy a house and not for any other reason. And the house clearly needs to be where I am. Or they turn around and say, yes, I will give this XYZ property to you, but actually you need to share it with your sister or everybody else, right? And they give shares, and you end up with this bloody mess that we have all around. So I think there's and actually that's bad parenting. Okay, I'll see what my kids think in 10 years' time, but I think that's bad parenting because it's full selfishness on their part. It's like, yeah, you're successful, but it's time to hand over to the next generation.
Expectation, isn't it? It's expectation. I remember somebody was saying recently, and I thought this was quite poignant, that if only parenting was less about planning for the future, which becomes a pressure and an expectation, if people gave their children the inheritance or the money that they're going to give them when they pass, when they graduate, or when they're looking to set up their companies, or when they need to buy a house, it's in your 20s and your 30s when you've actually got the energy to do your thing and do your traveling and start your companies, that you need the financial backing, not when you've lost them and you're already 50 and it's too late. So it's a very bizarre thing. You're right. It's a very Cypriot thing that it's all about the future. Living in the present is not quite yet.
And if you think about it's funny, even the British in their tax system, what do they say? That if you transfer assets to your kids within 5 years of you dying, then you pay inheritance tax. But if it's before, you don't, or the tax regime is lower, because effectively it's their way of pressuring you to move the assets down a generation. Now, generational wealth is a problem. As my good friend Alexandros says, it's all about being a good parent and having a lot of money and spending time with your kids and raising them and being there for them. But it's all about, I don't know. I think this is also part of the problems that we're faced with right now in Cyprus, which I know that destination Cyprus is about the happy things.
Be positive.
I am very positive and grumpy at the same time. So it's an issue because 1/4 of the population of Cyprus, 21%, are foreigners or born overseas. So you have Luxembourg, Malta in terms of percentages, and then it's us within the EU. Now, so the idea of thinking of Cyprus as we are Cypriot and there are foreigners, it's a bit weird, right? Because if 1 in 5 is a foreigner, they're not the outsider anymore. It's very much on the inside. And then when you see the businesses that they are running, and I know a lot of people focus on the tech sector in Limassol and stuff like that, but you sort of stand back and say, okay, the ports, okay, Dubai Ports runs Limassol, Israeli firm runs Larnaca, okay, airports, both overseas companies, amazing, Canadians. Great. Telecommunications. 2 out of the 3 telecoms provide 3 out of the 4 are overseas owned. Banks, the same. Right? And you sort of move on through the list. So actually, you stand back and look, you begin to realize that what Cyprus is a lot of the big entities are foreign owned and controlled. Good or bad, we can talk about it. You have a substantial part of the population that this is their home. It's not second homes as it was 20 years ago. So again, things change or has an impact. So if you as the parent, and you see that a lot, who are in your 50s or 60s are trying to control your kids or manage your kids because you think that the best way forward is for them to find a job in the government or in some semi-governmental organization, then you are actually doing damage to them, both on the being a good parent level overall, but also in terms of what that means going forward, because you are coaching them, your kids, to live in a Cyprus that doesn't exist anymore. And
catching up with the change. It's a big problem.
It's a big problem.
But I think, I mean, the fact that we're so open to foreign investment has been one of our trump cards as well. I mean, if I think of all the crises we've been through over the last decade, particularly our sector, it's amazing how we're still standing. We're still, actually, I don't want to say we're still going strong. I want you to tell me how we're going. So very, very quickly, can you just, because I actually haven't dabbled enough in AskWire to understand the technology behind it all. Can you explain what exactly AskWire does?
Sure. So I'll do so when people talk about real estate, they think prices, right? So prices, new construction, whatever. But actually we go back to what real estate is. It's bricks, right? I mean, it's and what we saw when the time came to manage the real estate, all in there are thousands and billions in the banks and the private equity funds, was to just look at the price of real estate. You're sort of missing the point. You're missing a big chunk of what it is, because it's about, okay, how much you're going to sell it for, but what are the permits, what are the documentation, legalities, but then you also need to insure it. Your tenant, you need to be able to collect the rent, and then that property is impacted by various risks, floods like we recently had in Dubai, by climate change, so things are changing on the long term. So when we forget about the real estate market and we go back to the fundamentals and say, okay, step 1, can we put all the data together about what a property is, and then we can decide how to manage it, how to sell it, how to insure it, and everything else. And when to do that, it's actually quite hard, because each and every property is different. So so how do you do it? And we came and said, we're going to do it for the whole of Europe, right? So it's like set the bar high and then sort of fail. And the way we went about doing that was we used two European Union directives. One is called the EU Open Data Directive. And the Open Data Directive forces government, compels them to open their databases to third parties. So they have to give you data. There's another directive called INSPIRE, which is an acronym that relates to the land registry, which basically says that all the data that comes out of all the land registries in the EU needs to be in the same manner, same format and everything. So in this magical world, somebody's going to draw a road from Lisbon to Helsinki, and everything's going to link together in terms of data and maps and whatever. So we kind of said, great, we're going to do that. So we're going to use all this data and build a profile of each and every property in Europe. So for us, property is earthquake zones, soil quality, floods, road network, the buildings, town planning, climate change, and then you go into demographics and stuff like that. So it's thousands of data, millions of data points that we collect, and we bring them all together as layers, one sitting on top of the other from all these different government services, but also Google, and we buy data from third parties. So we built that for Cyprus. We've done it for Greece, and now we're building Romania, and we're sort of, one country at a time sort of powering through. And what that allows is that on top of all these property profiles, we've built three what we term solutions. One has to do with the real estate market. So we access the data from the land registry as registered valuers, clean them in terms of these are apartments, these are houses, the square meters, construction year, and we map them all around Cyprus. And then we have crawlers. So crawlers, as mini hoovers that go on different websites and get the data. So we get data from the main aggregators, real estate websites in Cyprus, all the properties for sale by the banks, properties in the auction process. We do the same in Greece. And we map those daily, so it's daily updates. So you have a daily snapshot of what's sold and what's for sale in the market. And then on top of those, we build various models that track, you can value real estate instantly. So you just click and the whole thing is valued. And similarly for a developer, you turn around and say, okay, I'm Cybarco and I have Limassol Greens and I have Trilogy and I have whatever. Okay, how is my competitor doing? Okay, you click, you pick your competitor, you get the list of all their projects, how many properties they are building, how many they've sold, price per square meter, what floor they're selling, how fast they are selling, and then we benchmark you against them. And we currently track about, I think, 600 projects across Cyprus, real time, inverted commas. So that's one. Right, and then similarly, we have a second one that has to do with risks, which is for insurers, insurance companies. So their risk is split into, this is very boring, into three parts. One is called acute risks. So acute are like one-off big events, so earthquakes, fires, floods. So again, we have the whole Cyprus for that. Then we have what is called climate change and the different scenarios. So you buy a house in Platres, it's amazing, but in 30 years' time, the whole place is gonna be suffering because the risk of fire is gonna be very high, right? The whole of the island is drying up. So climate change, and then it's what is called transition risk. And transition risk, which is something very important that nobody talks about, is the risk of transitioning to a green economy. So as the new building codes at the EU level, and of course Cyprus, call for new buildings to be constructed to be Class A energy performance, it means that your apartment that is currently maybe Class E, let's say, is less valuable, right? Because you could have two units that are side by side, but they were built on different codes. One has a lower energy performance. So as more and more buildings, the new stuff that is coming onto the market is Class A, it means that everything that is older, has a lower energy performance, loses value.
My goodness me, no wonder you're so well connected. I mean, you're having to talk to everybody in the sector anyway, but tell me about land registries, because I know ours ain't so bad, but how do you deal with land registries in other countries? I mean, without being the Kipreos who knows someone and can pick up the phone. I mean...
No. Well, actually, we are not the Kipreos who picks up the phone because we're in the tech side of things, right? So I can't... let's put it this way. You have the dealing with the Cypriot authorities. We actually can't do that, right? You need a special schmoozing.
You need a translator.
Well, you need a different type of job, let's say, to be able to maneuver your way around it. So, but if you know, our land registry is actually not that bad, as you said. So we're
the Brits had something to do with that, didn't they?
This love affair with the Brits is killing me.
All right, let's not go down.
Let's not go down that road. So we are actually ranked number 4 out of the country. So in terms of openness of data and availability and stuff like that, I mean, the portal that the land registry has is great. Many grumpy Brits going around saying we don't have our title deeds. We can talk about them. I've had a go at them a number of times about why. But we'll skip that bit. So if we go back to, so our land registry is actually quite good in terms of registering stuff, doing what it does, what it's supposed to be doing, which is having a registry of who owns what and what liens and encumbrances it has over the land. So that is fine. When you go to other jurisdictions like we are, in Greece, Romania, whatever, it's actually quite interesting because yes, the data may not be there or may not be there to the extent that we have it here or so open. But if you go in with I can help you.
Right. So you're reversing it. You're fixing it for them.
We're fixing it for them. So actually we have
free of charge.
Sometimes. Sometimes or sometimes not. The thing is you can never government paying for things is hard. And actually, yeah. So it's hard to get government to pay, especially for stuff that is not necessary or they don't consider necessary. So, but right now in Greece, we have an ongoing discussion with the Ministry of Digital Transformation. So the equivalent of deputy minister that we have here for innovation, to help them with to improve their cadastral, their land registry and move forward. Hopefully we'll do the same in Romania soon, but it's still a discussion at this point in time.
Okay, well that leads me nicely into the next topic that I wanted to discuss, which is kind of dual. Employment, as in for us, for example, as a developer, it's interesting to see with all these new trends now, particularly in Limassol, how hard it is for us sometimes to get the kind of workforce resources that we want specifically for the sector. Having said that, obviously, because we have landmark projects and we've got the reputation, we seem to manage. For you, because there's that sort of the more entrepreneurial tech angle, be interesting to understand how you're identifying the right people for your team.
Sure.
And also how you feel all of this fits in with the evolution and the change, and if you're feeling positive about things that you're seeing happening in Cyprus from a tech perspective. It's a lot. You can start with the first one.
It's a lot.
Tell me a little bit about your team, because I mean it must be, I think, millennials. Yeah. I don't know if you've had experience working with any of those. I mean,
I have.
Go there.
We're 18 staff between Greece and Cyprus. So at 44, I'm the eldest. I'm the wise one of the group. And yet we have a 21-year-old working for us. Each generation are driven by different things. The younger generation, and I sound very old right now, but I think if you are 30 and below, or those who are 30 and below, let's say happiness, they realize, or it was never even on the table, that happiness doesn't come from work. For 40-year-olds to 50, if not older, it's like, happiness comes from work, and then there's the other stuff. The younger you are, this is sort of reversed. So you can't expect from them the same level of commitment from work. So one. The second is that, which means also that they are not so driven by money.
You mean the whole, it's kind of the live-work balance and the mental health thing, they're all into their well-being.
And the job that they do needs to be meaningful, and they need to feel important,
Purpose.
and yes, purpose, and all this nice fluffy stuff, which is great, but you need to deal with it, because what are you going to do, right? You need somebody to do the work. So this is sort of one fluffy way. So, which is funny, because they cost a lot of money, but they're not driven by money, which is, I'm still trying to figure that out. So this is sort of number one.
That's a paradox in
It's a
itself.
paradox.
Yeah.
The second thing is that when you deal with, and I don't think it's about tech, is, people have, they value flexibility a lot. Being in Limassol also with all this traffic that is horrendous, having the ability to work from home or work from somewhere else and not being able to drive in and out works. It's not tremendously efficient if you, I don't think, totally, if you have your team scattered, sort of works that well, but there's a value of having flexibility. So in our case, we started with 1 day a week being at the office. Now I think we found sort of the sweet spot, which is everybody except the tech guys need to be at the office 3 days a week, and then the 2 you can work from home or from anywhere you want. With the tech guys, is once a week, and it's always the same day. So we have 1 day that everyone is at the office, which is more for bonding, and we do our meetings and stuff like that. But then on the back of that, clearly, because we're operating across 2 countries and doing projects in 3 countries now, so this virtual working is there. So you need to have that flexibility. So step one, managing across generations is an issue. We need to deal with it as managers. Step 2, you need to allow for flexibility, not too much, because then you lose efficiency. But then the third thing is, when it comes to the talent, which is sort of where you went to, we don't have talent in Cyprus. I mean, the talent is not there for you to be able to access it, especially on the tech side. There are not enough people around, and the people who are around don't necessarily have the talent, or they're not the best at what they do. So if you do find them, probably you're going to be outbid by one of the big guys. Always you're going to be outbid, right? And rightfully so. So you cast a wider net and say, okay, I'm going to hire people from other jurisdictions. That's why we have guys in Greece. That's why right now we're working for some guy with some guys in Romania. We work with guys in Poland, so that we can execute the different projects. It's a different way of running a business. So where real estate is hyper local, obviously, you have landmark projects, and everybody has to be there because it's that's how you sort of transact in the business. In our case, because we are on the data and the tech side of things, we need to run the business in a different manner. So I think that sort of covers a big chunk. In terms of the going forward, I question it, and I know this is not what
I knew that was coming. Well, question mark.
I'm going to say something wrong, which is, if you look at the countries, let's say you look at, if you rank countries by wealth, places like Kuwait or Saudi Arabia would rank very high. But then if you look at, per capita, like per person. So what's that? You just take the GDP of the country divided by the number of people, and again, they will score very high. But then when you look at what is called the Gini coefficient, so how evenly distributed that money is, then at that point it was like, you've got, the Saud and everybody else who's associated with them in Saudi Arabia. So the ruling families, the ruling clans have the money, and everybody basically has either nothing or the basics. If you look at the tech sector in Cyprus, I would say that's pretty much how we are, right? Whereas like the distribution of wealth. Because yes, there is a tech sector, and the tech island, which I'm a member of, will turn around and say, we generated 13, 14%, whatever it is, of GDP, and that's amazing, blah, 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 blah. And like, of course it is. And you see all these cars driving around and all these different events that are taking place, but you have few big companies, and when I say few, I'll struggle to count 10, that dominate the sector, and then you have a lot of little guys, really little guys, who are struggling to make to move forward. So that's my first concern when it comes to the sector. The second is, if you look at the split between Limassol and Nicosia, and I say that because it becomes obvious, is that Limassol has always been outward looking. So you have the tech companies that are here. Yes, they're based here, either because of the IP box, so to pay low taxes, or because they're running away from for geopolitical reasons. Fine, or because it's nice. Not really.
De Pablo,
It's
Limassol.
nice. It's nice, but if you're a big company, if you have the CEO of a big company, I'm not going to move somewhere because it's nice. I'm going to move somewhere because I'm going to use the IP box and pay 4% tax. I'm going to get 50% off for all of my employees that are here, right? And because I'm running away and I can't get a visa to go anywhere else. That's the reasons why I'm here, right? Now, we can fake it, but this is a dating website or a dating podcast. But so that's the reasons why people are here. As you can see, I make many friends. So, this is my background of managing distressed real estate for 10 years. Like the no bullshit sort of comes out. Dealing with American private equity funds is sort of there. Anyway, so going back, so you have these guys who are here. It's a skewed situation, but Limassol. And this is what is great about the Limassol, to be fair, is that it's lovely. Sun, sea, great, whatever. The infrastructure is developing. You have developers like yourselves and others who are here on the market. So you have the service providers, because, and I know this is cliche, but this whole ecosystem, indeed, it's an ecosystem. So you need the tax regime to attract the big company, but you need the office building that is grade A, energy efficient, blah blah blah, to put the building inside. And you need the expertise when it comes to the lawyer's side of things, and again, the legal framework to be able to accommodate that. And you need the nice apartments and everything else to be able to be there. And you need the schools to be decent, right? So everything needs to work together. And you see that Limassol is managing that actually reasonably well. That's the good side. When you then turn and look at Nicosia is dying. Right? People will say it's stable. I'm like, yeah, Corpse is stable. But effectively what you have a banking system that is shrinking, progressively shrinking, making exuberant profits for no reason, especially over the past year where their interest rates have risen. And you have a huge government sector that is refusing, it's digitalizing, yes, but is not being digitized. So they are they're taking the piece of paper, the A4. Sorry, that's an A4. So that's a bigger than A4. Bigger. So why do you have different sizes?
We don't like to be run of the mill at Cyprus.
Have something blue, have something yellow.
That's Trilogy.
Excellent.
I'm being environmentally friendly. It's the old brand, so I'm using the pads. Thank you for the ad.
Sun and sea. Yeah. So anyway, so going back, so it's taking the PDF, taking the piece of paper, scanning it and turning it into a PDF and uploading on a website. That is not digitalization, right? That's you just digitize the document. You haven't fixed the process. And that's what we see happening in Nicosia. So this is a very long way of turning around and saying we have two worlds that are developing. And what the government has failed to do, and unfortunately both and also separate companies have failed to do, is to find a way to tap into the growth on this side. Right? So how do we use all these companies and this knowledge that they bring, this level of wealth to learn, right? And this is the thing that is missing right now. There's no communication between the two. So, the bad thing is we have two worlds. It's still early days. We need to find the connection between the two and sort of transfer the knowledge from one to the other, or because there are two ways here to move forward. You can either become a Singapore style or place, which is what George Vasiliou was trying to do in the early 90s, right? Which, again, nobody remembers. And I think it's very funny how Google works. We can talk about how Google works. It's fascinating. Well, if you are geek.
I thought you meant it was. I thought it was an age thing. I didn't realize it was completely strategic.
No. It's actually Google. Sorry, sidestep. So Google, if you search for something, they will put forward the most relevant stuff, obviously, as we all know, which is also the most recent. So if you put a search, Cyprus banking crisis, the stuff that was written at the time, which is 11 years ago now, you're actually probably not going to find them. Maybe they will be on like page 30, 50, 100. Even if you are super specific.
I think I did that. I was Googling images from March, and I didn't. Yeah,
You
I found
can't.
it difficult.
Correct. This is the thing. So it's actually in a quite bizarre way. While we're getting more and more data, we can't use Google to go back in history.
Oh, that's what's so terrifying about AI, though, because AI will just rehash what it's fed.
Yeah, but at least it's fed everything.
True story.
Right, that's the thing.
Yeah, but how do we know? Maybe AI only remembers the recent stuff. Maybe AI's got Alzheimer's. You never know.
You never know.
But yeah, so you were saying...
so yeah, it's how do we share the knowledge, right? Because it's a competitor of Cybarco this morning. We have to talk about them. We have more than one client.
Competition is very healthy.
Okay. I'll bear it in mind. So what he said, look, if somebody from overseas comes to do business in Cyprus and they are willing to take more risk, and they are willing to work longer, and they are willing to market their services overseas, stuff like that, and the Cypriot company, the local company, is not willing to do the same, is that a good or bad thing? So it's like, do you manage, if you are now the president, the head, what should you do? Should you be angry with this company from overseas for, sort of showing how things should be, and your guys not being able? So what do? You block them from coming in?
No.
Okay. No.
You find a way to learn from them.
Exactly.
Surely.
Exactly. So you need to find the way and transfer it across. But
bridge.
You need the bridge, but it's that bridge that is missing. Is that bridge that is sort of killing us all? And I see the local startup companies, because the universities that we have, not the private, the public universities that we have, they don't teach in English, right? And it was a matter of discussion in Parliament. It was to protect the language. I mean,
I just roll my eyeballs on Destination Cyprus now?
We went to the bank 3 years ago to get an overdraft facility of €20,000. And the bank turned and said, "What real estate are you going to put as collateral?" And I said, "None. We're a tech company." And they said, "Okay, well, we can't give you a loan because you need real estate to put as collateral. And by the way, after you put the real estate as collateral, the directors of the company, 3 of us, need to sign personal guarantees." To which I turned and said, "You mean for me to get a €20,000 overdraft facility, I need to put real estate as collateral and sign over effectively, my home and my colleague's home and our?" They said, "Well, and the response was, which I found amazing, was, if you don't believe in your company, why should we?" That's beautiful. Which is why we went down and said, "Okay, no problem, thank you." And we went and raised money from investors, and we pushed forward with our plans to go abroad, which is why we're spending more time in other jurisdictions. And in general, this is what I think a lot of Cypriot companies are finding. There is no openness locally for people to try out new stuff and sort of move forward and engage with what's happening around them. So it's 2 things. You need the government to build the bridge, one. But then you need also the government or the CEO level and below to turn around to their staff or even themselves and say, we are going to be left behind.
No.
Right? Or actually, we are being left behind. So we are going to die out unless we find that connection. And I think that's the thing. So we're not at a critical point yet, but we're not far from where... does Lima have a future? Of course it does. And things are going to move forward and things are going to be amazing. I'm certain of it. And we can talk about why. So, it's going to be lovely. The question is the level of impact we are going to allow this thing that is growing to have a positive effect on everybody else.
The fact that you're saying this, though, means that the appetite is there. And you're not the first person to talk this way. And I think that's something that I find quite encouraging. At least more conversations I have.
Yeah.
The appetite's there. There's obviously a generational gap as well. There's a mentality issue with some of the previous generations. So it's a shift that's going to have to happen.
Sure.
Can you please explain Proptech to me?
Sure.
Because when you were coming, I thought property tech must be what he does.
Yes. There is confusion of what's fintech and what's proptech. So the definition that most people use, not everyone, is that it depends on your clients, right? So if your clients are mainly companies in the financial sector, you are fintech. If your companies are, if your clients are mainly people in the property sector, then you're proptech. But it's a very bad way. I mean, look, real estate is a financial asset. So there are elements of real estate that deal with the finance, with the fintech side. So, prices, loans, insurance. That's the fintech side. And then proptech would be more stuff like property management software and Internet of Things in terms of connectivity, monitoring construction projects, project management tools. So that would be more the proptech side. We're sitting in the middle. We're more fintech related. Obviously, with a focus or exclusivity on dealing exclusively with real estate. Okay. It's considered to be sort of the last step or barrier for fintech, right? Because we have payments. Obviously, you have payments. You have KYC. You have all these things that have happened already in the financial sector and financial services and whatever. And real estate is sort of the last bastion that is that and insurance. So valuation, agency, insurance, which are they're part of finance and they're sitting at the where real estate is, are the stuff that is becoming more and more digitalized as time is passing. And when I say time is counts in months, in weeks and months, not years.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Because I mean, I can see from Trilogy how much things have changed in the way that we do things as developers and contracting over the past decade alone, with how things are being done now.
Okay, so what are three things? What are three things that you do different? So compare, I don't know.
Well, so for example, companies that now provide, apps for managing the process on a site, on a construction site, or safety processes. These are new things that I can't remember seeing back in the Limassol Marina day. Mm-hmm. So that's just a decade. Yeah.
On the sales side of things?
Ask Wire.
No, well, okay, yeah.
No, I mean sales. I mean, obviously things like CRMs. Does that fit under PropTech?
VR, virtual reality.
Yeah, VR.
Did you use VR in Trilogy?
Do you know what we try to always be a step ahead. We'd rather have something real to show. And what we've found with customers abroad, I mean, obviously when we had the pandemic, we had to act very quickly and dish out VR. We did this for our project in Agamas as well, which is obviously quite hard to get to.
Sure.
I do see the benefit of VR. What we found with our customers is that these kind of the tours of the house where you're hopping in and out of rooms, it just doesn't do it for them. And obviously the risk point for the developer is that you can't control what they're seeing if it's not CGI. So if it's a real property, it's like giving them an unlimited access to a snag. I mean, they're literally snagging the property from top to bottom, which you don't always want, because when you do a video and you have control of the videography and the edit and the music, you're generating emotion, you're controlling the visuals, you decide what to show.
Yeah, but for somebody like you who is not a control freak and is quite relaxed, I'm sure that would be a problem.
VR is a big issue for me. But I think we've used all of these things. But it is interesting though. I think what I always come back to is that despite the advances, almost like AI, they're good tools. It's good for support, but you will never replace the personal touch, the one-to-one. At least with our customers, the way we sell with our repeat customers, there's something about the relationship we build with them that we will never be able to replace.
Yes.
You beg to differ, don't you?
No. The reason you saw me saying sort of is we shouldn't see it as black and white.
No.
So if you look at mobile, And again, I will sound very old. You remember that before mobiles, there were pagers.
Of course I remember the page. I had one at university. My dad would page me and I'd run to the little
For
payphone.
goodness sake. So,
1996.
for those who don't know what a pager is, do you know what I say what a pager is?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit like doctors had pagers, didn't they? They used to get paged
Okay.
by a central phone system when they had to go for a delivery of birth. We had a friend who kept being, but yeah, the pager was a text message that was literally typed out by I don't know.
Somebody,
switchboard.
you would
Somebody
type it,
would
yeah.
send you a message.
Correct.
Wow.
So, right.
Insanity of it in our times.
But if you look at, so what you have, so you had the mobile phone. So you have obviously voice, and then you got text, right? So it was sort of the two things that came. And then you have stuff like WhatsApp, which is a form of text, but you can also send images and stuff like that. And Telegram, Telegraph, and whatever, and all of these, Viber and that type of thing, which actually the added advantage, not only the sharing and the fact that you can create groups, but also you can see if the other person saw your message.
I've blocked mine.
Ooh, okay, good to know. I won't get insulted. So effectively what you have it wasn't, we're going to stop talking, we're not going to meet anymore because we can talk to you on the phone, or that didn't happen. It was and is very much a transition over the last 30 years that mobile phones became more prevalent, where different things were created. So is AI going to replace sales? No, we're not going to replace sales, but we use AI a lot, right? Not a show-offy thing, but you go to ChatGPT, you can have the latest model made available to you for $20 a month, so nothing. But then what you start doing, you can start saying, okay, I have this legal document, and I want 4i principle. I want somebody to have read through it and make sure that I haven't missed anything. That's a good way to use it. Or, I've written something, and I want to make sure that it has the tone of voice of the Cybarco way of doing things. Okay, I can feed it through that. So you start augmenting yourself, helping you out, on how to become more efficient. And again, this, to link it back to Cyprus and so tech and whatever, it's not about us and them, or this replacing that. About how do we use it, how do we leverage it to become better. So can I do more sales? Of course I can do, because somebody who is sitting in the US or somewhere in Asia, they send a message in the middle of what is our night time. So that message could easily be read by like a chatbot or whatever, and turn around and say, okay, I'm Mr. X and I'm looking for this. Of course, chuk. Then the message goes out personalized to them with the document available, and you come in the next day and everything is fine. Or somebody calls, the AI can answer the phone and talk to you and say blah blah blah, whatever is there. So, and these are good stuff.
You see me going like, I'm terrified. It sounds terrifying. Okay, it's a control thing.
It's a control thing, but the thing.
Control and trust. It's a trust thing as well.
Yes, but you are too young not to force yourself to.
Me?
You are.
Thank you,
yes, you are too young not to sort of coach yourself out of, or you have to trust it, because it's going to change. It's changing us already so much. It's scary what is happening. Not what is happening.
The pace in which it's happening.
The pace, right? Yeah. So you won't be able to hide it. I mean, even look at bank branches, right? They're closing down one after the other. Rightfully, all the people are turning and saying, well, how am I going to pay? Well, how are you going to pay? You should learn. And somebody says, but I'm 80 years old, 70 years old, how do you expect me to learn? It's a problem. But if you are, 40 or younger, then, that's, I'm afraid is not an excuse.
And tell me, because I can't believe we've been chatting away for an hour. How about a family life and the boys? Or how do you feel about being in Cyprus now after all that journey?
It's a great place to raise kids. It's great. I mean, again, 3 good, 3 bad, or 3. The good is distances. right? So you finish work, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you're home, you're with them. I live in a flat in the center of Nicosia. I came home 7 o'clock. Barbecue. We all ate together on the veranda. Lovely weather, even though it's sort of
A bit. I thought you were going to say a bit dusty.
No, well, the bit dusty is sort of part of climate change. That's one of the downsides. So, the distances and the distances is one that sort of is great, which also allows you to do a lot of things with them. So, we'll go to the park, we'll go to the beach, we'll go up in the mountains. We're going to go with our bikes. We're going to come back. We're going to, that's great because, when you try to do something in London, you can do one thing a day. I mean, you can't do four.
No.
Which we do, right? You get up in the morning, and if you're an early morning person like I am, you do 50 million things. So, distances is one, and the ability and what that allows you to do. The second is the education system, or the quality of education is there. Everybody has degrees and masters and experts in this. So you have a lot of highly educated people in one place. That means that your kids, my kids, are exposed to a lot of good stuff in terms of private education, but also in terms of extracurricular activities. And that's where, to be fair to Tech Island and to other organizations, government as well, they're quite good at investing, or early stages of investing to teach about robotics and all that type of thing. So that's the second. So good level of education, whatever. And the third, look, it's safe. It is safe, and that means a lot, right? So, you have them running around, and you're not so afraid of, oh my God, and it's quite a kids-friendly place in terms of going to one of the villages, going up to Blatres, and have that type of thing. That's the good stuff. On the bad side now is it's small, so you need to make an effort, like everywhere, to do stuff. So you need to get them exposed to things that may be happening infrequently. So, I don't know, you have a good theater that comes, once every year or every few months. You need to make sure that you are there, because it's not like, oh, I can't make on the Monday, maybe I'll go on the Wednesday. Yeah, the Wednesday is gone, right? You missed it. So you need to make an active effort because the availability is not there. That's the first. The second is, if they have some inclination for something, I don't know, the arts or whatever, this isn't going to work. I mean, the market is shallow when it comes to that. So again, you need to sort of move them or expose them to somewhere overseas, like you did, right?
I know. I can't believe how fortunate we were that my poor dad. First, my sister went and said, "Baba, I'm going to be an actress," and then I pitched up and said I was going to do media. So, but yeah, we were very fortunate that I think deep down he was always hoping that I'd end up in property, and ironically, here I am. I think I would like to know, sort of, in terms of all the things that you've just painted. How old are the kids now?
7 and 8.
7 and 8. Oh, okay. Long way to go. Still, long way to go. What's next for Pavlos, though? I mean, obviously,
the assisted living. I'm trying to
figure out. You've still got 20 years,
Yeah.
but we'll find you something by then.
Okay.
What's next for you, though, in terms of, I mean, is Askwire any plans to expand or do anything else? Or
Look, Askwire is going for 3.5 years. The plan is to grow more. We need to grow. I mean, the whole idea was to use Cyprus, which we have done, as our testing ground, as our MVP, minimum viable product. So we built it here, migrated to Greece, now Romania, and sort of go beyond. Our plan is to create these property profiles and these solutions for the whole of the Balkans. So we want to capture the 80 million people that live in our neck of the woods, which is also sort of the part that is most hard hit by climate change, the part that is growing in terms of real estate, of new construction, that buildings need upgrading. So our plan is to digitize these 80 billion, or these countries that have 80 billion people in them, move down the line, exit to an investor from overseas, probably US or you.
I was going to say, how many years will that take?
I think we have another. I think we'll be looking at exiting probably in the next 5 to 6 years. You need a decade to get it done right.
You see, people don't have that kind of patience. It's very admirable. So that's the mission.
The mission is look, there's everybody wants a fast buck, which is what I find frustrating with talking to venture capital funds and private equity funds, those type of people, and you can understand why. Like they have specific periods. I mean, usually they have login periods of 6 to 7 years. They promise their investors minimum returns. So it's like they need their fix. They need their clients, the company they invest in, to fit certain criteria. We don't. We're more of a long-term or a longer-term play. Similar to a development like Trilogy, right? Trilogy started. I mean, you started construction in 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we were clearing the plot in 2017.
2017, yeah. So and it's a project where. Today, 2023, you're delivering the first property. 2024, I missed a year, right? So
I think we all did.
We all did. So 6 years. I mean, if you think of it from a developer's perspective, that's a long time.
It is a long
but
time.
You've built something out which is admirable, not only in terms of being a landmark, but also a project that is profitable for the company. I'm hopeful, profitable for your end client. So, doing things fast works for some things. Slow works for other things. In our case, it's a sort of a medium term exit. But the plan is that, and then we'll see what the next business is going to be.
And how would you describe Cyprus in 3 words? What it means to you?
Yeah, you told me about this thing. I'm not. I like the poem.
Can you not stick to 3 words?
No. There is this poem written by a Turkish Cypriot that says that Cyprus is like a χρυσοπράσινο φύλλο, a gold green leaf. For me, this is Cyprus. Is the gold green leaf in terms of. And why did he say it? Is the χρυσοπράσινο φύλλο ρηγμένο στο πέλαγος. So it's like a gold green leaf floating in the sea, in the blue. Beautiful and romantic, yes. At the same time,
you're not going to sing it for us.
No. At the same time, it's the gold and the green, and it's for me sort of a bit climate changey type of thing. It's a leaf, so it's quite small, and it's floating, so you're not in control. And I think this is the important. So there is the romantic side of looking the gold green leaf as something beautiful that is floating and we can look at and whatever. And I think that's the Cyprus that has passed us, or we are past it. Maybe that's what the Brits saw when they came in the 80s and maybe even the 90s. And I think Cyprus right now is this small place that is impacted by different things. And also it's being affected by climate change and geopolitics around us, and it's down to us. How do we try and manage? How do we live in this new world?
Did I forget everything? I'm supposed to ask you what you would change if you were president for a day, but I'm worried now. Go on.
What would I change?
One thing. You're only allowed one thing, though. I want to
president for one day only, so I can't really do much, right?
No, pick the most important thing that you have a gripe with that you'd like to improve, so that we end on a positive note.
I would triple or more the salaries of all senior managers and ministers and MPs. I would give them a massive pay rise. And I'm happy to. I know there's a why, right?
Why?
Right? They've earned so much. The president of Cyprus earns. Right, let me ask that. Okay, how much do apartments? A new apartment in Limassol right now. Let's not call it the Trilogy, right? But on the beach, whatever. How much would it sell for?
On the beach.
On the beach. Two-bedroom, like 80 to 100 square meters. Big two-bed.
On the beach?
On the beach.
Well, I mean, you need about $1 million, don't you?
Okay, 10 grand. So it's 10,000 euro, 10 to 12,000 euro per square meter. Okay, how much does it cost to build? Roughly. It's around 4,000 to 4,500 euro per square meter, and the reason is that you have to dip. When you dig, you find water, so that's what raises the cost, right? Okay, classic problem. Okay, so out of the 10, we've taken out 4.5, right? So we're at 5,500. How much do you buy land for in Limassol, or were you buying it until recently? Between 1,000 and 2,000 euro per square meter. Okay, let's call it 2,500 euro per square meter. So we're making 3 grand profit. It's like bare minimum, like we hiked up cost, whatever. Okay, so if you're making 3,000 euros per square meter, and you're selling something at 100,000, 100 square meter, you are making 300,000 euro profit per big two-bed that you're selling. Okay, a big project in Limassol right now would be anything between 30 and 50 units, roughly. So let's call it 50. You're making 300 grand. 3 million. I'm going to make 15 million euro profit. President of Cyprus makes 120,000 euro per year. Ministers make 60,000 euro. What's the likelihood of a person who has a very good, well-paid job, leaving their job to go and work for government at those positions, or being attracted to go into politics? A. 2, if they do go, what's the level of susceptibility that they would have to getting bribed? So, if you want the best people to be in power,
leading the country,
you need to pay them the highest possible amount, because actually what you want, if you have this, in theory, the smartest people working outside government and making a lot of money, they are going to manipulate the people in government so that they make even more money. So if I was president, I would give everybody else a reason to go into politics and a reason to be in position of power.
Will you hire me?
Head of media.
Woo. Pavlo, thank you very much. I could carry on forever, but we should probably wrap it up there. Hopefully we'll chat again next time we have a different topic. I think we've exhausted Cyprus for now, but thank you very much. And everybody else, please don't forget to follow us on the various podcast channels, and we'll see you again next time for more Destination Cyprus. Destination Cyprus, brought to you by Cybarco.